right, welcome to another Small Business Pivots where we have business professionals, leaders, and entrepreneurs from around the world. And I know if you've listened to the show before, no one can introduce their name and their business like the business owner. So, my friend, I let you do that. Tell us a little bit about you and maybe a brief journey of your upbringing.
Sure. Yeah. My name is Rick Elmore. I'm the owner and founder of a company called Simply Noted. And what Simply Noted is, it is a platform that helps companies integrate, automate, and scale sending genuine handwritten mail. And this is something that has just evolved over a decade of working on it. But my background's in athletics, and I've ended up founding a software, industrial automation, and engineering company. But what got me here has been a journey of nothing but pivots. And I'm happy to go back to the beginning if that makes sense to really kind of open up and kind of conceptualize what got us here, if that works.
Absolutely, because a lot of us, we grew up in different beginnings, different seasons, different families, cultures, etc. So yeah, we'd love to hear that story. Get us caught up a little bit.
Sure. Sure. So I come from a very humble beginnings. I would say lower middle class family. Both of my parents were solo entrepreneurs. My mom was a medical biller. She just would go to like physical therapy offices and help them do their medical billing. And then my stepdad, well, I guess my real dad he passed away when I was 7 years old. So I kind of had that early childhood trauma. But then my stepdad came into my life. He was my football coach at nine, when I was nine, and he was a roofing contractor. So that's how I earned money growing up. I would go up and down the ladder. I was his muscle. I would carry up the shingles, the paper, take all the trash off the roof. But I grew up in a very like humble family. My parents were never going to hand anything down to me. If I was ever going to make anything of myself, I was going to have to go out there and do it for myself. But I did have the love and support, which every time I talk about it, like it gives me goosebumps because I couldn't have asked for a better foundation. Having that support from my parents really like instilled the belief that if I wanted something, I could do it, and they were going to be there to support me. But I found like early in my life that I'm a big guy. I'm 6'5". I was always a big kid, and like I just gravitated towards sports. And I think there was like an inner anger in me because my dad passed away. So I kind of fell in love with football. I was able to hit people without getting in trouble. So I was like able to get some of that like internal angst out. But it wasn't until I was about 15 years old, my freshman year in high school, I was a bigger guy, but I had this like phenomenal freshman year. And I was still just playing because I had fun playing. But my coaches like shook me. It's like, Rick, like you're good at this. Like you need to chase this. I ended up getting like, I don't know if any listeners are football fans, but I got like 28 sacks, and this was back in 2002. And set like a California record. And like I was at like my sports like end of the year banquet, and I was getting all these like CIF awards, and they just kept saying it. And my coaches were like, "You have no clue what just happened." But anyways, had an affinity to football. Got a scholarship to play at the University of Arizona. That was the only way I was going to go to college. My parents couldn't pay for it, so I had to like, if I was going to go, I was going to have to earn it. And I was terrible at school. I was terrible. I always wanted to be outside playing sports. I wanted to skateboard. I wanted to ride my bike. I wanted to be hanging out with my friends. And I had to like redo classes as a senior just to become eligible to go to college. So like the journey was tough in the beginning. And then when I got to college, I redshirted my freshman year, and then I played for four different coaches in my college career. So I had to start over and reprove myself every single year. There was no like, oh, we know this guy. A new coach came in, and I had to reprove myself. Ended up having a pretty good college career. My junior and senior year, I led the Pac-10 back then. It was 2009, 2010 season in quarterback sacks. So I was like pretty proud of that because like a major conference, major division to lead in the sack category. I was all Pac-10 my junior and senior year. It then allowed me to get drafted into the NFL, but I was a sixth-round draft pick, got no money. The NFL is the only professional sport where money's not guaranteed. So the NBA, the MLB, the contract you sign, the majority of that first contract is guaranteed. At least that's what it was when I was playing. And I only got the paycheck to what I like showed up that day. So like I didn't make a lot of money in the NFL. I actually made more money in the first 3 years of my corporate career than I ever made in the NFL. So like I didn't have like a big nest egg to go invest into anything. I actually used all the money I made and saved to buy a house. So like if anything, like that's what I used it on. I didn't take it and go invest it into some startup company. But I played in the NFL for 3 years. The NFL stands for not for long for a reason. You know, like there's always younger, cheaper, healthier talent coming in every single year. And I thought I had like the ability to play 10 years, but you know, life had a different route or a different path for me to take. And when I got out, I was completely lost. I mean, I was like literally, I remember I got cut from Green Bay in Green. I lived in California at the time. I literally, when I got cut, I just got in the car and I drove right to California. I think it was like a 36-hour drive. I think I stopped for like 2 hours. I was just like in a like so zoned out, like my life's over. I can't do anything. But you know, after I got through that little period of my life, you know, that little period of time, I kind of woke up and said, hey, you know, it's not going to work, but it's not going to work. I got to do something else. So I just kind of looked at what other people did when they made the transition. And everybody got into corporate medical sales. You know, 15 years ago, that was like a big place to go and like kind of transfer, you know, from athletics to like sales. And I just took everything that made me successful as an athlete, you know, all the intangibles. It has nothing to do, you know, I had to earn it. I didn't know anybody at Stryker. There was no manager that gave me a job. I just had to show them, you know, what made me successful as an athlete. I was going to transfer it over to my corporate career. You know, that was the hard work, that was the grit, that was the perseverance, that was outworking anybody, showing up first, being the last one to leave. And it ended up working out for me. I had a lot of success in my corporate career. First year as an associate rep, but the 4 years I carried a bag, I was either top 1% or top five sales rep in my company. And that wasn't from anything but hard work and effort. And just like not stopping until like I accomplished that goal. But I saw, you know, like where my life was going if I stayed in corporate, and I didn't want to like work the corporate ladder. Like, and I'm sure a lot of entrepreneurs out there running their business, they have this like wake up moment where they're like, I'm meant to do something else. And I just always felt that internally. And again, I was bad at school. I was like horrible at school. I just did whatever I could to get by. Like I literally like just talking about like my undergrad, I want to like rip my skin off. It was so like uncomfortable. So going back and doing my MBA in 2017 was like, it scared me because I was like, why am I doing this? Like, why am I putting myself through this? But what I realized when I went back and did my MBA was when I was actually interested in what I was learning, I became obsessed with it. I wanted to be a business owner eventually. I knew I couldn't do corporate forever. I wanted to learn business. And going into my MBA, I kind of fell in love with learning. And I was a year into my MBA and I was doing a marketing class. And this is what's so important about just like trying new things and trying to listen to people's stories, because you never know where inspiration is going to find you. And I was in a marketing class about a year into my program. We did 2 3.5 hour classes every Wednesday. So it was 7 hours every Wednesday, 3 to 10:30. And this marketing professor is going through the success rates in marketing. And everything's nominal. It's like 1%, 8%, 14%, super low success rates. And I don't know if he was joking or, he's just trying to be funny, but he ends his lecture saying, hey guys, you know what works better now, if not better than ever, is a good old fashioned handwritten note. Like they get open 99% of the time. People are inundated with all this digital noise. Back then it was like the software boom. Now we're in the AI boom. Mailboxes are empty. People appreciate it. They're rare, so don't forget to send your handwritten notes to the people that you care about. And I was like, man, like that was like the light bulb. I was like, man, that's a good idea. Like, that's a good point. But like, who has the time to do it? Like, nobody has the time to do it. To sit down and write a note, like that takes 5 minutes, 10 minutes. I have 200 clients. That's going to take me a week. I used to do we would do Christmas cards. I would just put a Christmas card in the envelope and write the address. That would take days to do. Like, it literally took forever. So I was like, hey, if there's a way to scale this or automate this, there has to be a business. So again, no technical background, no software, no engineering, no co-founder who was a tech guy. I just got to Googling. I was just like, this is a good idea. Like, how do I figure this out? And at that time, there was only companies doing it like B2C, like the wedding market or like sending thank you cards to your neighbors. I was like, those are terrible ideas. Those are terrible markets. Like they're like a wedding, like that's a one-time client. It's like a hurry up and wait. Budgets are terrible. Like, why isn't anybody doing this for business? And hindsight's 2020. Like what we built here. If I knew what was going to take to build this, I'd probably like it would have like paralyzed me because it's become so complicated. But we've been able to accomplish this because we just took it one day at a time. But yeah, I just got to work. I found a pen plotter in China. It's a little 3-axis robot. Um, Built it at my house. It took me like a month because I had no experience doing any of this stuff. I just got to Google, watched YouTube videos, was obsessed with trying to figure out this product. And I sent out 500 handwritten notes. It took me about a month to get done. And the response rate was amazing. I had doctors calling me, and as a sales rep, when your client's calling you, like that's exciting. You're like, oh my God, a client's calling me, they want to buy. But I sent out 500. My monthly quota at the time was about $50,000 a month as a sales rep. In about 6 weeks, I sold just under $300,000 in product. And it
Wow.
was all from handwritten mail. These doctors were getting it. They were calling me and they're saying, hey, Rick, like, thanks for the note. I got it. So 99% open rate, right? Um, this is awesome. Nobody does this. Like, hey, schedule a lunch and learn with my front desk and let's talk about this. And like, that was when the entrepreneurial seizure like went into full seizure mode. I was like, oh my God, like concept is proven, like this works. My corporate career is going on autopilot, and now I'm going to start focusing on this. And that's like the genesis. But then like the last 8 years of building this business is a whole nother story because we built this amazing, engineering and software business. We have 9 patents. Again, I'm a football player, sales guy who's built a software engineering and robotics business, and it's come from just grit, not taking no for an answer, failing, learning, reiterating, pivoting, and just, even if I have bad days, I just wake up the next day and I just try to take another step forward. And that compounding interest has, built a multi 7-figure business. We're in a 12,000 square foot space. We have 11 employees. And there's no reason I ever should have been here outside of just wanting it so bad and making it happen.
So you grew up humble beginnings,
Yeah.
to say the least.
You know what? Like, I loved how we grew up. Like my stepdad drove like a beat down truck for his work truck, and I loved being in it. It was like one of those single row, remember those trucks with no back seat? We just had a bench
Oh,
seat in the
yeah.
front. He had to pump the gas pedal. He had to wait, had to see if it would turn on. I never thought anything of it. I was like, this is such a cool car. Like, and I mean, my parents, they I love my parents. They provided a very safe and supportive home. And I'm so thankful for that. And I feel like I owe it to my family and I owe it to those who've supported me in my journey to maximize my potential. And through my journey, I can help those around me to live up to their full potential by inspiring them through overcoming the challenges in my life.
That's amazing. And we were talking earlier because a lot of entrepreneurs compare themselves to other entrepreneurs and wonder if they're doing something wrong because someone else is succeeding making more than they are. And just like you mentioned, we all have a different journey of how we got here. Some people come from wealth. So a lot of these companies that just take off, they may have had some funding on the back end from family, or maybe they have some private investors. There's all kinds of things. And then there's other people like yourself. You love your family. There's a lot of people that they don't want to see their family ever again.
Yeah.
Broken
Yeah.
families, broken neighborhoods, cultures.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different factors that I want to encourage entrepreneurs to never compare yourself to another entrepreneur, even if they're in your same space, because we just don't know where those beginnings
I,
started.
I, I feel like I have like I have a perfect little tidbit of information. I want to respond to that. In the beginning, you're going to have imposter syndrome. You're not going to be like, oh, I can't do this. Oh, that guy's better than me. Right. What's really important is that most people never get started because of analysis paralysis. They look, I'm a big hiker. I'm a big outdoorsman. Most people stand at the bottom of that mountain and look at the top and they just go into paralyzation mode. Like, oh my God, that's going to take forever. I don't know what obstacles I'm going to run into. Like, I don't think I can do this. But what's really important is to just get started. Um, who you are and where you are at month one or 6 months in or year one or year two, it's going to constantly evolve. And just like hiking up that mountain, you're not going to get to the top unless you're taking steps towards the top. And you don't get there unless you're just consistently taking steps and working towards it. And when you're comparing yourself to everybody, all you're doing is slowing yourself down. And what you need to do is understand that 90% of people won't even try. Like 99 out of 10 people won't even try. And out of that 10% of people that actually try, probably 90% of them are going to quit. They're going to get like a mile in, 2 miles in, a year in, 2 years in. They're like, oh, this is too hard. And then once you realize that 99% of people, like you're really only competing with like 1%. And then you realize like, I don't even have to focus on that 1%. All I need to do is focus on myself and pay attention to what I'm doing and focus on my journey. And if I do that day after day, month after month, year after year, I'm going to get to that top. And then I'm going to turn around and be like, oh, the other 99.9% of people are still on their own journey. And it doesn't come about what everybody else is doing. It comes about what I'm doing. And you have to train yourself to not look at what that person's doing on social media, YouTube, podcasts, and say, oh, I just turned $10,000 into this $10 million business, because all they're doing is they're self-promoting, and you also don't know their journey. You don't know their beginnings, you don't know their funding, and you also don't know their journey. Some of these people may have been working on something for 10 years that gave them the technical skills to take that $10,000 and turn it into $100,000 or turn it into $10 million. But they won't tell you that. They're going to say, hey, look how good I am. Look at what I've done. And they're probably going to try to sell you a course and profit off of it. So really what you need to do is know where you want to go, at least have like a guiding North Star, focus on your own journey, put up blinders to these people that are just, trying to, self-promote themselves, and really just focus on yourself. And if you can do that every single day, and I feel like this is my superpower, is that no matter how bad yesterday was, and there's a lot of those days as an entrepreneur, no matter how bad yesterday is, I wake up literally wanting to run out of my bed. And that's, I feel like you got to focus on, like, is you got to find your why, you got to find your motivation and figure out how to find that. And if you have that, you're going to attack every day and you're going to solve problems every day. And before you know it, that compound interest over time is going to build something awesome.
Those are all great points. And for a lot of entrepreneurs, they see things different in different people. So we always see people like yourself getting those awards, those accolades, all the tackles. And it's like, well, they just must be wired that way. How do you self-motivate for those that don't?
I think it comes down to finding your why. And I know that's like a very cliche thing to say, but I know why I'm doing this. I have two children now, they're 6 and 8. I wanted to take everything my parents did for me and make sure it's not wasted. I want to take and use that as like a sounding board or a bouncing board to go to the next level. And I'm very driven to be a person of value. Through me improving and becoming a better version of myself every single day. And some days I don't get better because, some days are just really bad days. But I want to be somebody that my kids look up to, my team looks up to, my tight community. I really kind of brought my community tighter to kind of get rid of the noise, because there's a lot of noise out there. I want to be a person that when somebody says, hey, Rick Elmore, it's a positive thing. Like that person overcomes challenges. That person gets things done. That person does things with integrity. That person has morals, character. And I take that very personal. So I think you really got to dial it down to the most basic fundamentals of why you're doing it. It can't be because you don't want a job. It can't be because you don't want to be corporate. It can't be because you want to control your time. Because as an entrepreneur, you're going to go through years of hell before you create something that gets remotely close to what you're envisioning at day one. We're 8 years in and we're just like getting there. And it's been 8 years of hell. Like it's hell. But I literally I want to solve that problem. And you have to figure out a way at your most basic wiring to instill that type of process of mindset. Like, I just want to wake up and I want to keep trying. I want to get better. I want to build. I want to overcome. I want to persevere. And I think if you're rooted there, no problem's going to stop you. You may be slow. You may be slowed down, but you have to become unstoppable somehow through your why.
Most businesses don't hit the $1 million mark. In fact, I think less than 7% of small businesses ever do that. So that's a pretty amazing feat that you've accomplished. What would you say are some pivots that you made along the way, or did it just happen by accident that you got into the millions, just that continued persistence? What were some of those pivots you made early on in the business?
Sure. I think just like life, everything's an evolution. Who you were at 15 is different at 20. Who you are at 20 is different at 25. Who you're at 100 or $10,000 a month is going to be different than at $50,000 a month or 100,000 or 200. But what you have to do is you have to learn to, and this is like, we were talking about books before this, but I've read all the books, The Tractions, E-Myth. I've been a part of Chamber of Commerce, BNI, Vistage, EO. But you have to know, like, what got you here won't get you there. Who you were, then, and it got you to like that point, like, you're going to have to evolve and become a different person to get to the next level. And I always quote E-Myth, you got to get out of your business, you got to work on your business, but there's going to be years where you just have to be in your business because you don't have the revenue. But through that pain, through that hell, when you're working in your business, you still got to work on your business. And that's building systems, that's building, training people. I've leveraged virtual assistants for like most of my 8 years. I would build a standard operating procedure and have them execute that for me every single day. Some of these people, in the Philippines, India, they'll work, for $4 an hour, $6 an hour. Like, you got to find these resources, these tools, and leverage all these, different avenues that you have access to help you, get out of working on your bit or in your business so you can work on it. So I think we're kind of entering an interesting phase now where AI and automation can really, I would recommend anybody to really dive deep into the AI and automation space because it's evolving like every single day. But you have to build systems. And if you talk to other entrepreneurs, you talk to other business owners who've scaled their business, they have systems in place that allow them to, focus on other things that they need to focus on. So I would say get out of your business. Even if you're in that stage of grinding through your business, you still got to figure out ways to leverage systems, leverage virtual assistants, leverage tools to help you be more efficient.
A lot of business owners that we work with will consistently say, I don't have time, right? I'm putting out fires. I'm having to man a machine because somebody didn't show up today. How did you get past the I don't have enough time?
That's the 90% of people who won't even try. That's where the 90% of the 10 people or 10% fail. It's an excuse. Like, when your brain is going to tell you, your brain's going to play scenarios, go to worst case scenario, it's going to tell you you're tired. You got to have like the mental toughness to push through that. The people who are successful find a way, and there is no 9 to 5. It's not 9 to 5. Like, when you make the jump from, having a W-2 job to now having to pay payroll and being the W-2 provider of your employees, it's not 9 to 5. It's 24/7. I literally 8 years in, I still have vivid dreams of things that I'm doing in my business, like, emails that are coming in. Like, I'm thinking about that. Like, I have dreams about it. It's just like you're wired differently. But, that's caused a lot of problems too. This isn't talked about a lot in the entrepreneur space, but like how stress is going to affect your health. It has affected my health, and I've had to, it became such an issue where I had to like pay more attention to it. But then I had to build systems around making sure that my health is good. I'm now more involved with physical therapy and stretching, and I go to a naturopath, do blood work. I have supplementation. I have a stricter diet. I'm putting my phone away at a certain time every night. Like, when there's problems in your life, like, they're going to pop up and you're going to have to solve those problems so they don't become perpetual problems. Perpetual problems are going to slow down your progress. So if an issue is sticking around, it's for a couple of reasons. You haven't solved it or you haven't learned from it. So if a problem pops up, pay attention to it. And you have to look at it like, all right, step back from it. Why is this a problem? Where is it starting? What can I do to improve it? What system could I put in place to solve it? And then write it down and then have somebody help you execute it, or have a workflow, an end-to-end Zapier, make.com help automate something, or get a virtual assistant, for 2 hours a day, $8 a day, $10 a day to have them execute something for you. But you really have to just productize or systematize like everything in your life. Like, but there is no work-life balance as an entrepreneur. Maybe there is. I don't know. I haven't really truly found it. I try to like step away from it when I'm with my kids and family, but it's still always on my mind. Like, but you have to be okay with that,
I like to say
in my
it's more of
opinion.
an integration than a work-life
Yeah.
balance,
Yeah.
because
You have
we
to learn
may
how to, yeah.
make them both work, and
Yes.
with not following a schedule like a 9 to 5 or 8 to 5 has.
I think that's a perfect analogy. You have to learn how to integrate your entrepreneurial life into your life. Like you can't let it run your life, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yes. That's a good point.
So, what is one of the challenges you've had? You're dealing with software, you're dealing with people, you're dealing with technology. What are some of the challenges you've had, and how did you overcome those? Because those are not cheap in
Yeah.
those areas of the business.
Well, we've had to engineer and build our own handwriting technologies. So, how I did that was basically I went through 14 phase zeros with 14 different engineering companies. I have no technical background, no software, no engineering background. So all I did was go to an engineering company, told them about the problem that we're trying to solve and the product that we sell. And I had them basically come up with a plan. And I took that person's plan, just removed the pricing and the logo of their company, and took it to another engineering company, and then said, hey, this is how they want to solve it. How would you do it? And how would you quote it? And I did that 14 times. And by the time I got to that, I got this really nice, very clear path forward. And then we chose the person that we felt most comfortable with and the pricing that made the most sense. So like a lot of the times as an entrepreneur, I always forget the guy's, I think it's Jim Collins, but he uses the bullets and bowling balls metaphor, where it's like, as an entrepreneur, especially self-funded, you have no funding, like you only have a certain amount of revenue in your account. You can't waste it all. So what you got to do is if you're on a pirate ship and you have one cannonball, you got to aim that, you got to figure out a way to do test shots with bullets that aren't going to cost you much. And then when you have it perfectly aligned and it's going to hit and you have one bowling ball left that's going to save your ship, then you shoot it. So the 14 phase zeros was our 14 test shots with bullets. And then we had one bowling ball of cash to invest. So like I knew, like by the time I was going to make that decision, I did everything in my power before moving forward and paying that money, that I was going to have like the best chance of being successful. I think a lot of people make emotional based decisions as entrepreneurs. They get tired, they get stressed out, they just want a problem solved, and they make an emotional decision. When you make an emotional decision, it's not good. Like you got to step back when you're feeling stressed out. If you have to, step away from it, come back to it, have some clarity, do whatever you need to do to kind of get your mind right. What I'll do is I'll go for a run and then I'll jump in the ice bath. Going for a run, I work through things in my head. I get like physically, I let it release physically, and then I go in the ice bath and I come back and I'm refreshed. So like that's something I've figured out over time, but it's just really important, like that's a system for me. Like test. If I'm stressed out, I step back, I go exercise, I jump in the ice bath, and then I come back to it with some more clarity. But then, yeah, that's a whole different, animal or beast to tackle. Hiring, training, it's a whole different system. Getting people onboarded, making sure it's the right person. So systems, you got to have things written down. You got to hire for character and trust, in my opinion, especially in the early days, and then train on skills. You got to know if that person that you hire is going to be someone you can like depend on, because like so much depends on them. And if they're not going to show up to work every day, if they're not going to do their job, you know, um, it doesn't matter how skilled they are. So at least in my opinion, this may be different. In that first 0 to 1 million, you got to hire people that you trust and you can count on. 1 million to 3 million. Now you start structuring a little bit more middle management. You have more revenue to play with. And then 3 million over, in my opinion, just from like all the podcasts I've listened to, you got to have like real executive talent, people to come in here and really run divisions. But yeah, that 0 to 1 million, trust is like monumental for sure.
You've talked a lot about systems, and I agree. SOPs, systems, processes, all that good stuff is key to scaling a business, but there's a million different ways to do it. So what did you find was that worked for you? Were they simple, kind of 5 to 7 steps? Were they long? I mean, how much work did you put into them, and how did you find those to be effective?
Well, I'm very sales and marketing minded. So data means everything to me. Having a central hub to store all your data. We use HubSpot and Go High Level. You need to have a CRM. It is amazing. Going through all those like entrepreneur networks I went through. How many people don't even have a CRM? Like, how can you run your business if you don't have all your data stored, organized, tracked? If you don't even have that, you're going to have an impossible time scaling. And then once you have a CRM, everything's set up, you need to learn how to use it. You need to learn how to set up like sequences, workflows, automations from with whatever CRM you're using to automate some of the mundane, repetitive tasks. So, for example, when leads come in from like Google Ads, they get entered into a workflow. They get, a workflow for email and text messaging. A task is created for a sales rep. Um, you know, every time they revisit our website, we track that. They get ranked, they get lead scored. That help us make more intelligent like actions. So we're not just like blindly running through our business. Like, hey, this person's engaged our business the most. They've been on our website a lot. They booked a meeting. They requested a demo. They get scored higher, so we follow up with them sooner, right? Or we follow up with them more. So I've learned this over 8 years of just like literally like engulfing myself. But it can be anything for your business. Some people may want to hyper focus on product and sell the best product, so they're going to dial in there. Some people are going to do more social media. They just want to have a massive social media presence that drives traffic. But if you don't have a CRM, you know, like you can't even get started. But again, I would dive into a lot of the automation, a lot of these no code tools, N8N, Zapier, Make.com, AI agents, and really try to stay ahead of the times. If you're not using technology and automation tools in your business, it's going to be really hard. And there's lots of people out there that can help you learn how to do it. YouTube's a great resource. In the early days, it's going to be a lot of sweat equity. You're going to have to spend time learning this, but you're going to be so thankful you did. I always tell people the 8 years as an entrepreneur I've been in this journey, it's like 3 or 4 40-year careers in corporate America of like the knowledge that I have in my brain now because of just everything I've had to dig through and learn on my own. But I wouldn't take there's no shortcuts as an entrepreneur. You can't take shortcuts. There's no shortcuts to success as an athlete either. Like the guys who become professional athletes, it takes 15 years. And don't judge yourself. Some people's journeys take 20 years. Some people's take 2. And it goes back to what we were saying earlier. Like you never know how someone starts. So really just hyper focus on your own personal development and growth journey.
We talked about automation, and we try to keep small business pivots focused enough on the subjects that they have a shelf life. In other words, not talk about what technology does today, but what it can do for you moving forward. You mentioned automation. AI is a big thing. This is Q1 of 2026 when we're recording. Can you kind of share? I think we're past the ask it a question, the chat, the prompt, if you will. I think most people have gotten there. If you haven't, I highly suggest you at least start there, get familiar with it. But how do you think it's going to help businesses moving forward if they don't start learning it now? And I don't want to hype it up to where if you don't do this in 2 years you'll be out of business. Nothing like that. Just what are the benefits of it, and how do you think it's going to help business owners relieve them of so much stress?
Sure. So I'm obsessed with this space. Actually, I don't know if I have like literally, I don't know if you can see this, but I have 9 AI agents running on my laptop that do work for me 24/7. And there's a software that was just released called OpenClaw 3 weeks ago that allows you to have agents. So let me back up. How AI worked in the past was very prompt based. So you would have to tell it to do something and then it would give you an output. The input was your prompt, the output was whatever it did for you. which was great because like it can help you rewrite emails, it can help you debug code, it can help you accomplish a lot of tasks. What it wasn't doing was actually taking action. It wasn't like how do they call this? I'm trying to make it very easy to understand. These agents can now live on a computer. They have access to a computer. They can run your browsers. They can integrate into your CRM. They can send emails. They can send text messages. When data comes back, they can intelligently respond. They can book appointments. They have integrations into like Nana Banana and these like video generation tools. I mean, it's literally going to revolutionize the world. I honestly, genuinely believe like within the next 5 years, AI agents is going to be a part of every business. It can automate and do most tasks for most businesses. So if it's done on software, done on a computer, sales rep, marketing, PR, CRM management, like middle management, like sales manager, managing your sales reps, like you can have an AI agent sales manager managing SDR AI agents. So it's really important to at least have awareness of it because every business in the next 5 years, like mark my words, it just had its iPhone moment, and I cover this stuff and I watch this stuff every single day. But you're going to have to figure out a way. And this goes back, it's great. This is actually a huge opportunity. This shouldn't stress anybody out. You just need to be aware of it. Like a lot of these things that you get stuck doing in your business will be automated by agents. You just need to have the awareness to know like, oh, this is a problem that I'm living in. It's done on my computer. It's done with software. I can automate this. I just have to implement it. And you got to reach out to people who can help you do it until you get the domain expertise, like the, conceptualization of how it works to do it yourself.
Fantastic. We haven't talked much about your business other than it hand writes notes, which are important. I write a handful or so every week to clients and prospects. Tell us a little bit about that, and then we'll wrap up.
Sure. Yeah. The easiest way to understand what we do, I try to position as like the constant contact of handwritten notes. So if you think of like email marketing, what constant contact does, it helps you like, create a campaign, design, copy, send it, track it, email clicks, re-enter them into automations. That's what we've done here at Simply Noted. We make sending genuine handwritten notes, and I think you said we are on a video for this,
Yes.
but we send authentic, like personalized handwritten notes in your handwriting that is integratable and as automatable as email and trackable. So we track it to the mailbox. We track when people engage on your letters. We can set up API integrations and webhooks. So when a note is delivered, the post office updates our system. We update your dashboard, and we can automate sending a text message saying, "Hey, John, hope you got my note." We know we got it because we tracked it in the mailbox. You can automate a text message. You can update your CRM. So we've taken something that in the past was just incredibly difficult to do, sit down and send something like a handwritten note, and we've made it incredibly simple through automation and technology.
That's amazing. I encourage everybody to check it out. I'm looking at the website again. It's amazing technology, and you're right. Notes go a long ways. I'm sure there's a lot of listeners probably want to learn more, maybe follow you. What's the best way to do that?
Yeah, so I'm very active on LinkedIn. It's like my main social channel. So just Rick Elmore, Simply Noted. And then if anybody wants to learn about the technology, they can go to our website and just request like a sample kit, and we send a really nice like big like folio to show you the quality and the technology. But yeah, those are probably the two best mediums to get in contact.
Any blogs, YouTube channels, anything like that?
I consult through Full Stack Closer, and I have like a school community where people can go and like follow me to learn about AI and implementing AI into their business. But that's like a small project I do on the side. But yeah, fullstackcloser.ai. If anybody's interested in learning about AI, I literally help small business owners implement AI agents, AI automations for sales, marketing, and PR. But that's more like a side hobby for me right now because I'm just so fascinated with the technology. And by me helping people integrate it into their businesses, it really just keeps expanding my knowledge on how these tools can be used for anybody.
Absolutely. Well, I always wrap up with kind of one last question. If you were in front of an audience of small business owners, different seasons of business, different industries, different amounts of employees, What is one thing that could be applicable to all of them? It could be a book, a quote, life lesson, anything.
Um, that's a very broad question. I want to go back to what I was talking about early on. Um, you really have to, you got to get out of the noise and the chaos that you deal with every single day. We all have it. And you got to go down to the most basic fundamentals of who you are and why you're doing what you're doing and focus on that. You got to shift the mind as like, oh, I want to make a lot of money. Oh, I want to be my own business owner. Oh, whatever, like the however it's drawn up. And you got to figure out why you're doing it. Is it because you're just born to be an entrepreneur? Is it because you are born to be a problem solver? Is it because you are born to, change the direction of your family? Whatever it is, like you got to figure out that most basic fundamental and start there. And if that isn't figured out, you're going to have no chance of being successful because every time it gets hard, it's going to be miserable. Instead of every time it gets hard, you're like, oh, here's a new challenge. Let's figure it out. I'm going to overcome it and I'm going to become better. And if you can figure out why you're doing it and you're rooted in that, solving every problem is going to be, I'm not going to say easy because it's still going to be hard, but you're going to enjoy the process. You just got to learn to enjoy the process instead of, making it look how it is on social media, because it definitely isn't how it is on social media. Every day's hard as an entrepreneur.
Absolutely. Well, you've been a blessing to many. Appreciate your time and insights and wish you continued success.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you for listening to Small Business Pivots. This podcast is created and produced by my company, Boss. Our business is growing yours. Boss offers flexible business loans with business coaching support. Apply in minutes and get approved and funded in as little as 24 to 48 hours at businessownershipsimplified.com. If you're enjoying this podcast, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and share it as well. If you need help growing your business, email me at michael@michaeldmorrison.com. We'll see you next time on Small Business Pivots.